Recording in progress.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the traditional and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. My name is Becky Druhan, and I'm the Minister of Nova Scotia's Department of Education and Early Childhood Development. I would like to start by welcoming everyone to today's important announcement on early learning and childcare in Nova Scotia. Joining us today, we have the Right Honourable Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, the Honourable Tim Houston, Premier of Nova Scotia, Member of Parliament for Central Nova Scotia, the Honourable Fraser, Federal Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, the Honourable Karina Gould, and Nova Scotian parents, Dr. Jessie Lee McIsaac, Kendra Slaughter, and Neil and Kristen Stephen. Today's announcement is all about parents, families, and Nova Scotia's youngest citizens. Our commitment to families and children is to provide affordable and accessible childcare and early learning that is high quality and inclusive. As a mother, I understand the need for families to be able to access affordable, high-quality childcare. And for this reason, it gives me great pleasure to be a part of today's announcement. Today, we are advancing our work on the childcare agreement and making life more affordable and accessible for families in Nova Scotia. So I am pleased and excited to welcome Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to say a few words about this important announcement.
Thank you, Minister Druhan. It's good to be here with you and Premier Houston. Je tiens aussi à saluer la ministre Gould et le ministre Fraser de mon équipe. Karina et Sean sont deux voix fortes pour les familles de la Nouvelle-Écosse. Last summer, we signed a historic deal with Nova Scotia to make childcare more affordable. At the time, parents like Dr. Jessie Lee McIsaac, who's with us again today, said that this would be a game changer for families across the province. Well, Dr. McIsaac, you were right. Thanks to our agreement in July, childcare fees in Nova Scotia from this month onward are going down by a quarter. For parents, this means hundreds of dollars more in your pocket each month, whether to put healthy food on the table or sign up the kids for soccer camp or after-school activities. If you've got two children, saving $400 a month is a big deal. But we're not stopping there. Working together with the province, we'll cut childcare fees in half by the end of this year. And in the next 5 years, we'll get to $10 a day childcare right across Nova Scotia. There is no doubt affordable childcare matters. So while some politicians in the last federal election promised to rip up our $10 a day deals, we fought for what families deserve. I want to thank Premier Houston for his leadership and premiers across the country who worked with us to get these agreements in place. Ici en Nouvelle-Écosse, les frais de garde d'enfants sont déjà en train de baisser. En Alberta, on devrait avoir réduit les frais de moitié d'ici la fin du mois et au Yukon, les garderies sont déjà à 10 $ par jour. C'est important. C'est important pour les mères qui ne doivent pas avoir à choisir entre leur famille et leur carrière. C'est important pour les éducatrices qui peuvent compter sur un bon emploi. C'est important pour que toute notre économie continue de se renforcer. Before I pass it over to Premier Houston, I also want to say a few words about something else that matters to parents these days, keeping your family safe. We're working around the clock so that Nova Scotia and all provinces and territories continue to have the tools they need to protect people from COVID-19. We've secured enough vaccines and boosters for every Canadian. We're delivering a record number of rapid tests this month alone, And for workers and small businesses, we have your back with programs like the wage subsidy, designed to keep you connected to your job while you are able to put food on the table in times of difficulty. Ensemble, on va passer à travers et on va être plus fort et plus résilient que jamais. Sur ce, je suis très content de céder la parole maintenant au Premier ministre Houston. Happy to pass it over to you, Tim.
Thank you, Prime Minister, Minister Gould, Minister Druhan, and of course, my own Member of Parliament, Minister Fraser. I'm so pleased to join you today for this incredibly exciting announcement. Prime Minister Trudeau, thank you to you and your team for your vision of affordable childcare for all Canadians. Through the Nova Scotia Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare Agreement, we are transforming the delivery of early learning and childcare in this province. And so together, the province of Nova Scotia and the government of Canada, we have committed to reducing fees by 50% on average by the end of the year and $10 a day at childcare by 2026. It's incredibly exciting. And today, I'm pleased to announce we're actually ahead of schedule. Nova Scotia parents and families will see an early initial decrease of 25% retroactive to January 1st. This means parents and caregivers in Nova Scotia are already paying less. This is tremendous news, and I'm proud that working with the federal government, we were together able to move this forward. So with this retroactive change, on average, parents and caregivers will see a reduction of $200 a month for their toddler in childcare. Procedurally, parents will continue to pay their current rate until April 1st, at which time they will receive either a check reflecting the reduction from January to March or a credit based on their preference. In addition, we'll continue to move forward with reduced fees. We're adding 1,500 new not-for-profit childcare spaces beginning this fall. This is incredibly significant. I can't possibly overstate this. As we continue to move forward with this agreement, positive changes will continue to happen. Positive changes that will have an immediate impact on families. Each one of these positive changes will have an incredibly positive impact for our children and families for generations to come, really. This is one of those moments that makes me very proud to be the Premier of Nova Scotia and very proud to be Canadian. Childcare costs are a barrier for so many families. For a family struggling to balance the cost of childcare with the need to work, paying 25% less in fees will make a real difference. And that starts now. That's happening now. So that's more money in parents' pockets for everyday living expenses, more money to spend on extra things, extra activities, sports, the arts. It's more money to spend on family activities. Making childcare more affordable helps address child poverty. It supports women and it supports families. And this is just the beginning. Affordable, quality childcare across the province is something many could only dream about in the past. Well, now, in partnership with Prime Minister Trudeau and his team, that dream is coming to life. We value the important role of childcare providers, early childhood educators, and the service they provide to our children, to families, and to our province are incredibly important. This agreement will mean higher wages, and it will be support for their training. So at a time when we're seeing our province's population soar and continue to grow, we're now over 1 million people, we're also seeing some labor gaps. We're seeing those gaps widen as well. So we need all hands on deck working to build up Nova Scotia. I want to thank you, Prime Minister Trudeau, Minister Gould, and of course, my colleague in the legislature, Minister Druhan and Minister Fraser. Thank you, everyone, for your work. Your work on this and the work of your staff has allowed us to move this forward and offer fee reductions earlier than previously promised. I can't thank you enough for that. So I'd now like to welcome the Federal Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, the Honourable Karina Gould. Minister Gould.
Great. Thank you so much, Premier Houston. I have to say, I am just so pleased to be joining my colleagues in Nova Scotia for today's significant announcement for families and children in this province. And I did just want to take a moment to highlight the fact that Nova Scotia is moving ahead of schedule, and just a few short months after we signed the initial agreement. And it has been such a pleasure to work with Minister Druhan and her team and to really continue to advance on the path of accessible, affordable, quality childcare in Nova Scotia. Today's announcement, reducing fees by 25% retroactive to January 1st of this year, is an important step along the path to affordable, accessible, and inclusive childcare in Nova Scotia. The pandemic has brought into sharp view just how important access to early learning and childcare is across all sectors, regions, and income brackets. La fermeture des écoles et des services de garde d'enfants a été très difficile pour les parents, c'est peu dire. En effet, si les parents n'ont pas accès à des services de garde d'enfants abordables, ils ne peuvent pas travailler, which is why our government's commitment to building a Canada-wide early learning and childcare system matters more than ever. So families, no matter where they live, will have improved access to high quality, affordable, flexible, and inclusive early learning and childcare programs and services. En juillet, les gouvernements du Canada et de la Nouvelle-Écosse ont signé l'accord pan-canadien entre le Canada et la Nouvelle-Écosse sur l'apprentissage et de garde de jeunes enfants. Grâce à cet accord, nos gouvernements unissent leurs efforts pour faire en sorte que les familles de Nouvelle-Écosse aient accès à des services de garde réglementés pour un coût de 10 $ par jour en moyenne d'ici mars 2026. With a commitment to reach a 50% reduction by the end of 2022, Nova Scotia is making significant progress in achieving that goal. And the 25% average reduction in early learning and childcare fees announced today means families will see on average savings of $200 a month. Families know just how much of a real difference this will make for them and their children each month. This is a significant step forward in making childcare more affordable for Nova Scotia families, and I am thrilled to be here as part of the announcement. And as Premier Houston mentioned, part of the plan is not just about reducing fees, but also growing access to spaces. And I want to commend Nova Scotia for moving forward on an additional 1,500 not-for-profit spaces by the end of this year, which will make sure that not only are fees more affordable for families, but there are spaces available for families who need to put their children in childcare. Advancing the Canada-wide early learning and childcare system means that families, including Nova Scotia families, will save thousands of dollars a year. Cet accord permettra également de stimuler la croissance économique, d'accroître la participation des femmes au marché du travail et d'offrir à chaque enfant le meilleur départ possible dans la vie. Les investissements dans les services de garde d'enfants ne sont pas seulement avantageux pour les familles, ils sont aussi judicieux sur le plan économique. And as the Premier mentioned, I also want to take a moment to recognize and thank the incredible hard work and dedication of our early learning and childcare workforce in Nova Scotia and right across the country. We have seen through the course of the pandemic just how vital you are to caring for our most precious resource, our children, but also to ensure that the economy keeps going. Because as a working mom myself, I know how much I rely and trust our ECEs to take care of my son, just like families right across the country. I would like to thank Minister Druhan, Premier Houston, and everyone involved in today's announcement. I'll now turn it over to my colleague, Minister Fraser, to say a few words. As a parent in Nova Scotia himself, I know he has a true understanding of the impact of today's announcement. Merci. Sean, à vous.
Merci, Karina, et merci tout le monde pour être là avec nous aujourd'hui. It's an absolute pleasure to be here with all of you. And let me just say, in my experience over the last few years, Minister Gould in particular has been an absolute champion for families and for women in Canada. And to see this announcement come to my home province as a result of your work with our provincial counterparts, let me say a personal and heartfelt thank you for your effort along the way, and Prime Minister for your leadership as well. I'm absolutely thrilled to be here to talk about one of the most important things that any government can do. That's to improve the quality of life that families they represent enjoy in their communities at home. And today we're doing this by making childcare in Nova Scotia more affordable and more accessible. One of the themes that I think is really important to reflect upon, although this is a wonderful policy from a social point of view, it's going to save money for families in the communities I represent and families right across Nova Scotia. It's also one of the most important economic policies that we can implement as a government. When I had the pleasure of serving as the parliamentary secretary to the Minister of Finance prior to the last election, in my discussions with officials, they explained to me that this is one of the most important economic policies we can advance because so many families across Canada are making a decision not to join the workforce because they can't afford the cost of childcare. By freeing up more people, disproportionately women who are currently making this decision to join the workforce, we're going to be able to also tackle one of the greatest economic challenges facing the economy, which is the labor shortage that has come as a result of this pandemic. But look, what's very fitting for today's announcement is that I'm not only joined by my colleagues and elected officials, I'm also joined by Nova Scotians who are going to be better off as a result of today's policies and who happen to know a heck of a lot about what they're talking about. For the next segment of today's event, I'd like to invite the Prime Minister, Premier, and other ministers on the line to join me as we hear directly from families across Nova Scotia. For folks who are turning in online, we're joined by Dr. Jessie Lee McIsaac from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Kendra Slaughter from Preston, Nova Scotia, as well as Neil Stephen and Kirsten Stephen from Dartmouth. Although they are in Dartmouth now, I'll point out they have roots back home in my own constituency, just outside Antigonish. To all of you, thank you so much for being here today to talk more about childcare in Nova Scotia. And if it's all right with everyone, I'd like to kick off the conversation with Dr. McIsaac. So Dr. McIsaac, look, you are an expert in early childhood development and policy. So could you speak a bit about why supporting the early learning and childcare system is so important from your own experiences with research and as a parent of young kids? What stands out to you as being most important for Nova Scotia with this development today?
Thank you, Minister Fraser, and for the opportunity to be with you all again today and virtually today. So my work as a Canada Research Chair, I study the ways we can enhance well-being during early childhood. And this focus is based on a well-established research base that tells us that the early years of a child's life is foundational to their lifelong learning, health, and well-being. A lot of the work that we do focuses on leveraging family voice to help ensure that families and their children have access to the supports that they need. One example of a project that we're working on is with newcomer families in Nova Scotia. These families took photos to help us understand the lens of their experiences and identify that financial challenges interfere with their ability to access resources such as childcare. Families also told us about the importance of culturally responsive and inclusive programs, a pillar that I'm so pleased to see that is recognized in the Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare Agreement. But not only does this agreement address the critical needs of families, it also offers a shift in the way that we think about and deliver early learning and childcare in the province. We're moving from what some have called a patchwork of care to a system that places value on the need for a diverse and highly trained workforce, who will also be fairly compensated for their work. I'm also a mom of 2 young children and a board member here at the nonprofit Child Study Center at Mount St. Vincent University. And I've seen firsthand how tirelessly our early childhood educators have worked to respond to the needs of our children, especially during the pandemic. They view our children as capable learners, and I'm so grateful that this agreement recognizes the value of their work. Through this agreement, my children and children across the province will have the opportunity to learn in high quality early learning spaces like this that encourage kindness, curiosity, and imagination, building lifelong skills. I'm really looking forward to continuing to hear the stories from families and educators in our research to help ensure that our province can achieve this vision toward an affordable, accessible, high quality, inclusive early learning and childcare system.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that feedback. I'd like to invite some of our colleagues here, perhaps Prime Minister and Premier Houston, if you've got some feedback, this would be an appropriate time.
Well, first of all, Jessie Lee, I just want to say thank you again. This has been a long time coming. Our Deputy Prime Minister, Chrystia Freeland, talks about the fact that her mom 50 years ago was part of the Commission on Status of Women that recommended universal childcare across the country as being something really, really important for us to develop as a country. And 50 years later, we've finally been able to achieve it. It took longer than we would have liked. And quite frankly, the pandemic really highlighted for a lot of people who hadn't been convinced around how important childcare was, that yes, this is absolutely essential. Having kids underfoot while we're trying to work virtually was the thing that put it over the line for many people. But researchers and leaders in the childcare community and people focused on kids have known for a long time. So when governments and partners were ready to do this, you really stepped up, all of you, and made this happen. And it's because of your tireless advocacy and your focus on this as something that's great for kids, great for families, and great for our economy, makes it something that is very exciting. So I just wanted to again say thanks to you, Jessie Lee, and quite frankly, it's nice to be connecting again. Last time we talked at the announcement for this, it was a beautiful sunny day. Now you guys are braced for a big winter storm, but families are benefiting every step of the way.
Yeah, and I just add in there. Thank you, Jessie Lee. I can't really say it any better than you did, but look, we know how important this is. It is a great announcement. It's historic. The impact of this will be felt for generations. So we know that creating more access to childcare, it just means so much for so many families, but especially those who have never had access to quality, affordable childcare. They will now, they can now. So this is going to help more children get the best possible start in life. It will help address child poverty, and it will support women and families who are wanting to get back into the workforce. As Minister Fraser said, that's how incredibly important that is. So the impact is truly historic, and I'm so pleased to be part of this announcement on behalf of Nova Scotians. So thank you, Jessie Lee, too, for your comments on that.
Look, thank you so much, Prime Minister and Premier Houston, for your feedback. The fact that you've both taken the time to show up today, I think, communicates the importance of this generational investment for my home province here in Nova Scotia. My second question, I'm delighted to have Kendra Slaughter here. It's such an honor to be with you here today. And thank you for the conversation we shared just briefly before the event on the importance of having an equity lens applied to this particular conversation. But I wanted to discuss with you in particular the importance of creating more daycare spaces across the provinces. We probably know of too many families who struggle to find childcare spots for their kids. And your experience, when we talk about making childcare accessible, how important is it to you that we also focus on creating more spaces like the 1,500 announced today for families like yours, and over the course of the next 5 years to be looking at 9,500 spaces in Nova Scotia? To me, it sounds like a game changer, but I'm very interested in hearing your perspective on this issue.
Thank you, and hi, everyone. I'm Kendra Slaughter. I was ecstatic to hear that there would be more spaces. When I after I had my son and was getting ready to go back into the work field, I struggled because there was no space for him to go to daycare. So that came with, like financial issues, because I wasn't able to get back to the field because I had to wait. I know people having to wait almost 2 years to be able to go or to send their child to daycare. So more spaces would mean like more opportunities for parents to work and receive an income. Many people cannot work because of the limited spaces in the healthcare. So that affects, like I said, families financially. There's families who, like I said, wait on a wait list, they place their child on a wait list to ensure that they have a spot secured for their child when they're ready to go back to work. So opening up more spaces allows for children to receive early childhood education, like build social skills, increase their cognitive development. I come from a health promotion background, and I understand how the first few years of a child's life are very significant. So in daycare will offer opportunities to support that growth. Like now with my son, I see a huge difference from the time he's been home with me to going to daycare, and also for me growing up, starting out from daycare and having long life childhood memories, like starting from the daycare and building those strong relationships with other people. So I think it's a really, really good idea that the spaces are open. And I just wanted to thank you all for allowing me to be a part of this movement. And I think it's so nice to see government taking the time to understand and support this growth by creating spaces for children to learn. So thank you.
Excellent. Look, I'll invite a few more of my colleagues to join Minister Gould and Minister Druhan. If you're interested in chiming in, we'd love to hear your feedback. And thank you, Kendra, for being with us. The honor and pleasure is all ours, I assure you.
Well, I'll be happy to jump in. Kendra, thanks so much for joining us and for sharing your experience. I think the point that you raise about spaces is so important because, you know, a lot of parents will put their kids on multiple wait lists because they're worried about not being able to find a space and time for them when they do go back into work. And we know that mostly it's moms that will end up taking, a step back from the workforce, not always, but more often than not. And so that has an impact on women's careers. It has an impact on their long-term earning capabilities as well. The longer that they're out of the workforce, the harder it is to A, get back in, but also B, to continue to grow and advance in the workforce. And so this is something that is, as you said, so important for our children, for their development, for their long-term growth and success, but it has much broader social implications and economic implications. And so I'm really excited to keep working with Nova Scotia as not only they reduce those fees, but continue to grow the spaces so that, other moms like you aren't going to be, kind of panicked and trying to figure out how do I get my child into safe, affordable, quality care when it's time for me to go back to work. So thanks so much for sharing that.
No problem. Thanks.
I'd echo the thanks, Kendra, for joining us and for sharing your thoughts and your experiences on this. Availability of childcare is fundamental to accessibility. You don't have accessible childcare if you don't have available childcare, and that's the absolute basic starting point. And that is a huge and important piece of this. I'm even more excited about the fact that not only are we going to now have available care, but accessible care even beyond that. And accessibility means different things to different people. So the starting point is that you can actually just get it. It's available. But it also means proximity to community, proximity to my home or my workplace or my school. It may also mean being inclusive of families' individual characteristics, whether they're language characteristics, cultural characteristics, or individual needs. And I'm so very excited to be part of this new historic system that is going to transition us into being able to meet all of those accessibility needs, not just availability, but all of the other aspects of accessibility. So thanks, Kendra, for joining us on this really historic announcement.
No problem. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks so much to all of you. Look, to our next guests, Neil and Kirsten, it's really, really awesome that you could join us here today. I know that you guys have two kids, as my family does, one who has already gone through daycare and another who's in there now. We're right behind you with a 5-year-old and a 6-month-old at home. But in addition to dealing with the challenges of raising a young family, you guys are small business owners. You've got a growing business in Dartmouth with a lot of young employees. For you, what are the highlights of today's announcement, and what will the contrast between the experiences with each of your kids in daycare be like going forward as you're trying to manage both the task of raising a family and running a growing business at the same time?
Yeah, it's always a balancing act. Good morning. Good morning, Prime Minister, Premier Houston, and honored guests. Thanks for having us this morning. I think I speak for most Nova Scotians, Premier Houston, when I say I will take a check in April. It's fair to say. Maybe, I don't know. As a small business owners, it's the staff is getting into their late 20s, into their early 30s, and having gone through it now ourselves, I've been pretty concerned for them for a while because I know the impact of that ability to get into the marketplace, both maybe in home ownership or in other sort of investments when you're younger. It's kind of off the table, and it has been off the table. Certainly was off the table for us for many years because of the cost of childcare. It's a huge monthly cost. So to hear this investment, I mean, we knew it, now it's coming even faster. That just means it's going to be even quicker delivery of support to some of my staff. I got one person on our team who is, was it March 4th?
No, she's due in April.
She's due in April, leaving March 4th, but she's going on mat leave, and she's going to be in a much, much better position 2 years from now than she otherwise would have been. And I know for our family, it's not a small deal. You know, a little bit of money every month, that really does go a long way. I think it takes the pressure off. And working with a lot of small businesses, it takes the pressure off a lot of those small business owners, a lot of them, and their staff too. A lot of people in the service sector and in different work capacities. It may seem small, especially if you don't have kids, but for those who have kids, they understand this is everything. On a personal note, the accessibility component of this, I'm thrilled to hear that. I was worried that this was going to be a great announcement, but not accessible to folks because we wouldn't have enough seats. And the idea that 1,500 within this year, and then I think 6,500 or something like that over a few years that is definitely a game changer for the province. It makes this province more competitive, and it makes the country more competitive in the long run. So, what are your thoughts, Darryl?
I would have to agree. The biggest thing definitely being like for us, home ownership probably would have been something that was accessible to us years ago if this program was in. Now that it is, it's going to open it up to the people who are, 5 years younger than us. Like when they start having their families, the idea of not wasting their money on rent is now going to be a possibility because they're not making a mortgage payment for childcare every single month. So it opens new doors to a bunch of various opportunities for them in the future.
Look, this is terrific. Perhaps for a response, we'll go to the Premier first, followed by the Prime Minister.
Well, Neil and Kirsten, thank you so much, and very decisive on the issue of check or credit. I love it. Decisiveness is good, but you're absolutely right, and we hear from Nova Scotians all the time that the cost is a burden. Describing it as an extra mortgage payment a month is absolutely accurate, and that is a very, very significant burden. So, in some cases, it's made it impossible to rejoin the workforce. Not only tough, but impossible. So that's been true for a long time. So with this announcement and doing it earlier, I'm so excited to be able to help Nova Scotians out earlier. So this is a really good thing. I know this announcement will make life easier for so many families, and that you can't understate the importance of that. So thank you, Neil and Kirsten, for being here today. And at some point in time, Minister Druhan will call you and say the check's in the mail.
Listen, it's great to hear from you both, and you're highlighting sort of the two of the things that make this a particularly important measure right now. I mean, yes, childcare has been important for a long time, and making sure that it's affordable and high quality is always something that would have benefited society. But the two things right now is we're seeing the rising cost of living with the challenges coming out of COVID, meaning that having this significant reduction of $200 a month right now, but more to come for so many families across Nova Scotia, is going to make a huge difference, as we know we're being challenged with things more expensive because of disruptions of supply chain and because of the global inflation crisis. But the other thing that is very much very timely in terms of this initiative is the fact that we're starting to look not just at challenges around people finding good jobs, but the opposite as well, of labor shortages, and being able to free up more people to be able to rejoin the labor market, more moms specifically, because we know the burden on child rearing always still falls to moms, making sure that they have options and opportunities to get back and avail themselves of some of the great jobs that are out there and vacant. These kinds of things are unbelievably timely right now as we're trying to support people getting through what is hopefully the later phases of this pandemic, but it's going to continue to be a slog, and having this make a difference in families like yours, Neil and Kirsten, is really important. So I'm so glad to be here for this announcement, and so pleased to be able to work with everyone to make it happen. So again, thank you, Tim. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Karina and Sean, and everyone who's been working on this for months and years. We're getting to a much better place for Canadians in significant ways.
Excellent. Thank you so much to all of our guests. And I'm going to say, as thrilled as I am to have some of my colleagues with both the federal and provincial government here, it's an absolute pleasure to be here with some of the families whose lives are going to be directly impacted by the policies that we're announcing today, and to shed some light on just how important it is for governments to create policies with them. When we sit behind closed doors in Ottawa or at Province House, we don't get very far. When we talk to people who live in communities and understand how these policies will increase their quality of life, we can address the kinds of concerns around accessibility, around cost, around the impact on businesses that these policies will have. So thank you for being here. I want to take a moment to hand the reins back over to Minister Druhan for some final thoughts on today's announcement before we move to a Q&A.
Thank you, Minister Fraser. So as we close the first part of today's event, I want to speak to our early childhood educators. We cannot talk about childcare without recognizing the work of our early childhood educators. ECEs do amazing work. We trust them with the care, support, and education of our youngest learners from infancy to school age. ECEs provide our children with a foundation for learning, offering them new experiences, guidance, and comfort as they discover their world. Nova Scotia's excellence in early childhood education workforce strategy will result in better pay and benefits, reflecting the value we place on our ECEs and helping us retain and attract more people to this important profession. This month, with federal support, we're offering bursaries to 300 ECEs who are currently enrolled in full-time ECE diploma program. Bursaries range from $3,250 to $7,500 and support our work to develop a diverse and inclusive workforce. In addition to the supports for ECEs, we will work hand in hand with providers to ensure they have the opportunity to become part of an historic system that benefits children, families, and the economy. So to our ECEs and childcare operators, I want to offer a sincere thank you. We appreciate the work you do and recognize especially the incredible support you've provided over the past 2 years as we've all navigated through the pandemic. This concludes the formal portion of today's announcement, and now we'll move to the media questions. I'd like to ask Tina Thibault to moderate this portion of today's event.
Thank you, Minister Druhan, and good morning, everyone. Merci, Monsieur le Ministre. Bonjour tout le monde. My name is Tina Thibault, and I'm the Managing Director of Media Relations for the province of Nova Scotia. It's my pleasure to be here with you today. Je m'appelle Tina Thibault et je suis Directrice Générale des Relations avec les médias pour la province de la Nouvelle-Écosse. C'est un plaisir pour moi d'être avec vous aujourd'hui. Today we have Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston, Federal Minister of Families, Children and Social Development, the Honourable Karina Gould, and Nova Scotia Minister for Education and Early Childhood Development, the Honourable Becky Druhan, available to take questions. Nous avons aujourd'hui le Premier ministre de la Nouvelle-Écosse, Monsieur Tim Houston, le ministre fédéral de la Famille, des Enfants et du Développement social, l'Honorable Karina Gould, et l'Honorable Becky Druhan, ministre de l'Éducation et du Développement de la Petite Enfance, sera à votre disposition pour répondre aux questions des médias. We will now open the floor to questions. Nous allons commencer la période de questions et de réponses. To give everyone a chance to participate, please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up. Please begin your question by identifying yourself, naming the media outlet you represent, and who your question is for. Pour que tout le monde ait la possibilité de participer, veuillez vous limiter à une question et une suivie. Avant de poser votre question, veuillez vous identifier, nommer l'organe de presse que vous représentez et indiquer à qui votre question s'adresse. We will start with Mike Gorman from CBC. Go ahead, Mike, with your question.
Thank you. This is either for Premier Houston or Minister Druhan. When the agreement was announced in the summer, it was stated that there would be a payment framework for ECEs in place by 2022. What is the status of that effort, and when will ECEs in this province see a pay increase?
Go ahead, Mr. Druhan.
Thanks, Premier. Yes, so that work is ongoing, and we're on track for that to be complete this year in 2022, and we're looking forward to having that developed and announcing it.
And what can you say, Minister, about what type of increase folks can expect to see? And also, Premier, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how we got to this point where you're able to reduce fees ahead of schedule.
Yeah, maybe I'll go first, but I mean, how we got here is a lot of hard work. We understand the importance of having affordable, accessible childcare, the impact that has on families, that has on communities, on our economy. It's impossible to overstate it. It is critical. So the need is there. So the initial announcement in the summer was a good announcement. We're always supportive of that announcement. We're on the right path for sure, and we felt the urgency to go quicker, to support families quicker. So really, what you're seeing today is the result of a lot of midnight oil burning in Minister Gould's office and her team, and Minister Druhan and her team, and really we're really proud that we're able to get here early. We have a lot of work to do. You know, we're more reductions coming towards the end of the year, and obviously on the path to $10 a day. So we got here with a lot of hard work, and I'm really proud of the teams and really proud to be part of this. But in terms of the compensation and the career recognition, and I'd say respect as well, of the incredible work that our ECEs do. I mean, we know we have work to do. That work is ongoing. I'm not sure if Minister Druhan can give some specifics on what that may look like, but my message to ECEs today is we know we need to go faster on supporting you as well, and that we're doing that as well. We feel that urgency as well.
Yeah, Premier, I think you nailed it. Really, the point of the strategy and the point of the framework is to show the value that we have in our ECEs. And so I don't have news to share today about any specific numbers, but the framework will set that professional compensation structure, and we're also looking at benefits as well, all of which we want to have in place to show the value that we have for our ECEs.
Thank you. Just a note before we continue that Minister Fraser is also available to take questions. Sorry about that, Minister. We'll move on to Alicia Drouse from Global. Go ahead, Alicia, if you're there.
Thank you. I'm also wondering, just a technical question, if it's possible for when they're responding, if we can get them full screen rather than having the 5 separate screens. I'm not sure if that's possible. But my question is for either the Premier or Minister Druhan. The majority of childcare providers in Nova Scotia right now are private, and my understanding is that they do have the option to join into this new plan if they, for the most part, switch over to nonprofit. I have spoken to some, though, who say that's really not a sustainable option. They've put many investments into their business already, and so going nonprofit just kind of leaves them in a hole. So I'm just wondering what happens to all of those childcare providers.
Yeah, first off, what I would say is there are a lot of for-profit operators, and they have been providing incredible professional care for our children for a long time, and we're very, very appreciative of that. They really stepped up during, it's been a tough couple of years with a move towards pre-primary, with the pandemic, and they've always been there for our children. So I just want to say we're very respectful of that. At the same time, the system is changing. This will be a stable system that they have the option to operate within. And I know this is I would say it's a shock to the system for a lot of them. There's no question. They have a lot of decisions to make. We have Minister Druhan can elaborate on that, but we understand the gravity of the decisions that are before them, and we want to support them through those decisions. And there's those discussions are happening, and there's some support there that's in place, but this is a historic change. Every time you make a historic change, there are ramifications. And we're sympathetic to that, and we apologize for that. But we're going to work with them to get them in the best possible place that they can be. But Minister Druhan, I know, her team's been pretty involved in those discussions.
Yeah,
go ahead, Minister.
I share the Premier's appreciation for all of our operators, including our private operators, and just want to remind them and encourage them. So a grant was provided to each of those operators in December, and that grant is available to them to be able to reach out and get professional advice as they look at the various options that are available to them. And there are options open to all of them. So we encourage them to work with their professional advisors to find the best path for them. And we're working hand in hand with them.
Thank you, Minister. Alicia, did you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I do. It was mentioned that you're adding 1,500 new non-profit childcare spaces beginning this fall. I'm just wondering where those resources are coming from, and by the time I guess this is all said and done by 2026, how many new spaces will be added?
Sorry, I think I missed the first part of the question. When this is all said and done, our commitment under the agreement is for 9,500 new spaces. So this is a step towards that number. But could you repeat the first part of the question?
Yeah, where are the resources coming from to add all these spaces?
Right. So I guess there's two pieces to that. So there's the monetary resources, the financial resources, and we're very grateful and thankful for the federal government's contribution as part of the agreement, and the province has a contribution as well to that. And all of this was part of the agreement. The second piece of that is the human resources. Where are we getting the people? And an important piece of that is our workforce strategy, which we spoke about a little earlier. And that's really, encouraging and supporting our existing ECEs to encourage them to stay in the system and upgrade, and as well encouraging new people who want to join the profession to do so. And that's through bursaries and through building out a compensation structure that illustrates and reflects the value we place on this really important role.
Next, we'll go to Kevin Gallagher from CTV. Go ahead, Kevin.
Hello, my question is for Minister Gould. By my count, turn that on. By my count, there's still two territories in the province, a territory and a province across the country that have not signed on for the national daycare deal. And I'm just wondering if you have any expectations, like is there, what's holding up Nunavut and Ontario from signing on to this federal plan?
Sure. Thanks, Kevin. And let me just reiterate that I'm so happy to be here with Nova Scotia. And I wish I was physically in Nova Scotia, because I think this is a great announcement and a terrific milestone. And I really want to just commend and congratulate the Premier and Minister Druhan for really accelerating the work. Let's recall that this agreement was only signed in July. And I think it's quite impressive and important that we are here today, just a few short months later, with some really important milestones along the way. So congratulations to our colleagues in Nova Scotia for today's announcement. On the two remaining jurisdictions that have yet to sign, look, with regards to Nunavut, we have an agreement in principle. Nunavut, as you may recall, had a territorial election later in the fall. And so after their election and their cabinet was formed, we started having really good conversations. I actually spoke with one of my counterparts in Nunavut yesterday. Things are proceeding very, very well. Nunavut has, in addition to their cabinet process and structure, they also have to consult with the Inuit in Nunavut. And so that process is happening, but I feel quite confident that we will be signing an agreement with Nunavut in very, very short order once that process is complete. With regards to Ontario, again, lots of good conversations underway. I would say that they accelerated significantly in December. So that is also very positive. I'm having lots of good conversations with my counterpart, Minister Lecce, and I am hopeful and optimistic that Ontario will be joining sooner rather than later. I can't give you a complete time frame on that, but I do want to assure parents and providers in Ontario that the federal government is very active when it comes to those conversations with the government in Ontario. And I remain very hopeful that we will be making an announcement sooner rather than later.
Go ahead, Kevin, with your follow-up question.
My follow-up will just be probably more towards Minister Druhan. What are the challenges to hiring more early childhood educators? Like you want to add 1,500 new spots, but presumably you have to find more people to be there to have the instructor-child ratio or supervisor-child ratio. So what are the challenges right now for provinces like Nova Scotia to encourage or entice more people to join the early child care education system?
Yeah, so I think we share the challenge that other sectors and other provinces have right now. We have a labor shortage overall, certainly not just within childcare. So that's a significant challenge that all sectors are facing. But I think really we have an incredible opportunity with the implementation of this agreement and the exciting changes that are being made. We're putting in place additional educational supports that I spoke about, including bursaries and support for education for new ECEs. We're building a new compensation regime. And so the steps that we're taking now to implement this agreement are, I think, we're going to make this an even more attractive opportunity for people to join the workforce.
Next, we'll go to Lindsay Armstrong from the Coast. Go ahead, Lindsay, with your question.
Thank you very much. This is a question for Minister Druhan. I understand that daycare owners are being asked to sign a deal by March, and I'm hearing that there's little information at this point, and I'm hearing some pretty major concerns about compensation. Can you tell me more about how you'll be working with the industry through this transition?
Sure, and we really do understand that change can be scary for people, and this is new for everybody. So the department has been working closely with all of the providers, and specifically, as you're asking about the private providers. So more detailed information was shared just yesterday with our providers, and they were given a lot of information yesterday, and there's a lot of information to go through. So really, the important thing for them is going to be evaluating that, assessing that, and working closely, using a grant that was provided to work closely with professional advisors to get a full understanding of what options are available.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Lindsay, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I understand based on yesterday's documents, there remain questions and concerns. Is there any concern on your end that these for-profit businesses won't sign on given some of their concerns around compensation and otherwise?
Right. So the vast majority of for-profit operators have engaged with this process. They responded to the initial expression of interest and participated in the meeting yesterday. So we're really encouraged by that response. And absolutely, there are questions arising from the information that was shared yesterday because it was a lot of information. But I'm confident as we move forward and work closely with them. The department is available to answer questions, and we're moving forward hand in hand with them to make sure they understand exactly what those options are and can choose the right path for themselves.
Next, we'll go to Danielle Edwards from the Canadian Press. Go ahead, Danielle.
Okay, yes, thank you. Can you hear me properly?
We can, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Yes, so I just wanted to double check that by the 2025-2026 fiscal year, we're still on track to create 4,000 new regulated early learning and childcare spaces, correct?
So our agreed target is 9,500, and yes, we are.
Okay. So I just kind of want to ask a little bit sort of overall about what the process is like right now and working with parents, what you've been hearing about the benefits, about the struggles with lack of access to childcare, well, affordable childcare anyway.
Right. So our department has always worked closely with parents to provide access to childcare spaces, and we do have space available currently. This agreement is really about a transformation to make sure we have more spaces available, more variety and more accessibility in areas that have been historically underserved, and to ensure that we have diversity reflected in our childcare providers and operators and workforce, so that families see themselves reflected in the spaces. Really, that's what we're working on and working towards with the new agreement. And we've been hearing from families and parents about what those needs are, and we're working to meet them.
Thank you.
Danielle, did you have a follow-up?
No, that's everything. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next, we'll go to Kira Morellen from Radio Canada. Go ahead, Kira.
Hi there. My question would be for Minister Karina Gould, and if possible, if you could answer in French. I was just wondering why this was happening earlier, and how was the federal government involved in this happening earlier?
Oui, bien sûr. Alors, merci pour la question. Comme j'ai mentionné en anglais, c'est vraiment dû au travail acharné du province de Nouvelle-Écosse et le gouvernement fédéral pour arriver aujourd'hui à cette réduction de frais de 25% pour les parents qui ont des enfants dans les garderies réglés de la Nouvelle-Écosse. Comme j'ai mentionné, nous avons seulement signé cet accord il y a à peu près 6 mois. Alors, c'est vraiment important et approprié que la Nouvelle-Écosse avance de cette manière pour cette réduction de frais. Le gouvernement du Canada, bien sûr, provisionne de l'assistance financière pour arriver à cette réduction de frais aujourd'hui. Et c'est toujours sur le chemin de réduire les frais de 50% de cette année de 2022 et pour arriver dans les prochaines 5 années de réduire les frais à $10 par jour. Alors, c'est vraiment dû et grâce au travail acharné des départements d'éducation et des garderies de Nouvelle-Écosse qu'il avance de cette manière rapide et avancée.
Go ahead, Kira, if you have a follow-up question.
Yeah, thank you. I guess my next question would be for Premier Houston. I'm just wondering if maybe you have an expectation as to when parents could see the next drop in price.
Yep, towards the end of the year. That's the schedule. And the initial drop was all supposed to happen towards the end of the calendar year. So we moved a portion of that, half of that, forward now. So we're on track, and the new spots will be opening up this year. On track to open up 9,500 more, and on track for the $10 a day, which is where we ultimately want to get to. But I'm really positive on this agreement, and really positive on the work that has happened so far. This is a good thing, and I'm happy we were able to do some of it earlier. And if we can do more earlier, Mr. Gould, Mr. Fraser, we'll keep trying to move it forward, because this the positive impact that this has on families across the country, but certainly right here in Nova Scotia, it's impossible to overstate it. So this is a high priority item. We feel the urgency to do it sooner. That's why some of it is coming sooner, and we'll make sure we execute and deliver on the rest on the same timeline.
Next, we'll go to Paul Bacon from allnovascotia.com. Go ahead, Paul.
Good morning. Minister Druhan, sometimes parents prefer to send their children to a daycare near their work, for example, rather than near their home. Will parents still get a choice in which daycare they get to send their child to?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a key element of accessibility. People have different priorities for how they want to see offerings in childcare, and the availability of all these new spaces and the diversity of the providers and the offerings will really add choice to the menu.
Thank you.
Could I jump in there as well?
Sure. Go ahead, Minister. Yep.
Yeah, it's just because I think Minister Druhan raises a really important point, because often, sometimes we hear people say, oh, well, this new agreement won't enable choice. But actually, there's not a lot of choice right now when parents are struggling to get their kids into daycare, and just really often taking the place that offers them the first spot on the wait list. And so I think the fact that Nova Scotia is moving forward so boldly with additional spaces will actually enable that choice for parents, so that they aren't scrambling to find a spot. And so I think that's a really important point in all of this.
Thanks, Minister. Paul, go ahead if you have a follow-up.
I do. Premier, maybe this is for you, I'm not sure, but all those checks that get cut in April, or credits as the case may be, is that money coming from the federal government, or is it coming from the province? And do you know what the estimated total cost will be?
Yeah, I'll probably put that to Minister Gould and Minister Druhan on some of the actual details of the numbers. But to answer your question in general terms, this is a joint agreement between the province and the federal government. We're both investing in this because we both see, as do all Canadians, really, the value of this program. So, in terms of the money flow and the ins and outs for the first round of checks and credits, maybe Minister Gould or Minister Druhan might want to chime in on that.
So I can follow up. As the Premier said, this is a joint investment. So money for the entire operation of this agreement and all of the great improvements that are being made is coming both from the federal government and the provincial government. But the department can follow up if there are specific questions around where the money is coming from for the first wave of reductions.
Thank you.
We have a reporter who's having trouble with her microphone, so I will ask her questions for her. The first question is from Erin Potty at CBC. What does this mean for private daycare owners?
She said she wants to change it because it was already asked.
Oh, perfect. I'll go to the second one. And this one is for Premier Houston. Why was the decision made to end funding to private daycare providers if they decide not to opt into a non-profit model?
I think what we're looking at is this is a transformational change. It's a historic change, and we're looking forward to the long term, the stability of childcare, the accessibility of childcare, and certainly, obviously, the cost of childcare. So when you're making a big historic change like this, there are lots of moving parts to it and lots of discussions that happen. So we're concerned about the impact on private daycare operators. I'll say that we're definitely concerned about that, and that's why there's such a focus on having discussions with them, working with them, providing financial support for them too, to get their own independent guidance and counsel on what may be best for their particular operation. But all those discussions are ongoing. But I just want to say that we understand the positive impact that these operators have had on their communities and the positive impact they've had on families. So we understand that, and we want them to be part of the process of continuing to have positive impacts on families and communities. And those discussions are continue to take place.
Erin has come back with another first question, and it is how long will private daycares have before they have to make a decision? And that question is for Minister Druhan.
Right, so they will have to make a decision by March, and that date was shared with them along with the information yesterday. I just want to go back to the earlier question that was asked and reiterate that there are lots of opportunities within this agreement and lots of options for existing private daycare operators to continue to exist within the new system and to be funded. There is one path for them if they choose not to participate in the agreement at all, where the funding ceases, but there are a variety of options if they would like to continue to receive funding to participate in the agreement and receive all the benefits under that. So I just want to iterate that we're really pleased with the variety of options that are available for our private operators, and we're excited about working with them to see how each of them land in the new system.
We have time for one more question. Nous avons le temps pour une dernière question. We'll take that next question from Kaja Jusinoga from The Signal. Kaja, are you there?
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead with your question.
So I actually don't have a question right now. Sorry.
Great, thank you very much, Kaja. And unfortunately, that's all the time we have for questions today. This concludes today's event. Thank you so much for joining us. La conférence de presse est maintenant terminée. Merci de votre participation.